Hello everybody, here we are today doing my Grey Cup preview, and tonight of course we have the Grey Cup, and I'm very excited for that. But before we get started, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So now we get a 2022 rematch of the Grey Cup between the Toronto Argonauts and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and Toronto is once again playing the underdog here. You have a team that is certainly focused on the fact that Chad Kelly is going to be out with an injury in Toronto, as Nick Arbuckle is going to be their starter. This is something where you're seeing an experienced veteran quarterback going out there and getting the start in Arbuckle, who has over 1,000 career attempts in the CFL and has shown flashes before, but probably hasn't been that guy since his 2019 Calgary era. He ironically was supposed to be Toronto's guy, post 2019. That never really happened. He has bounced around before, but is back in Toronto and hoping maybe to go out there and play that Grey Cup hero as an underdog when his career has kind of been marred by being a backup or being a guy that has those quiet nights that probably shouldn't be a starter. It certainly would be fun for him to kind of flip the narrative at least on one night and have a big game, but I do think the big worry here is that Winnipeg's defense is really good. They have the fewest passing yards per game allowed, the lowest completion percentage against and whatnot, and just are a team that can make life difficult for quarterbacks. Maybe they can have a lot of passing yards in a game, but it might come at the cost of 40 or 50 passing attempts, and it really just comes down to points. Really what we're looking at here is probably seeing whether or not Arbuckle can go out there and get points on the board. It doesn't have to be a perfect tonight, but I think if it can remain relatively turnover free and you do, go and get 3 or 4 touchdowns and maybe let your defense do the work, it could still end at a positive result. The second talking point here is that we might see the underdogs not be afraid. We have seen Winnipeg in the Grey Cup for a 5th straight year, but looking at this right now, they have lost the past 2 Grey Cups to teams that were the underdogs, 2022 Toronto and 2023 Montreal. Both of those teams weren't expected to go out there and win. I remember 2022, I felt like it was not going to happen. And then last year, I also felt like Winnipeg had a really good chance of winning that game. In both of those games, they probably should have gone out there and won them, but those teams were able to keep it relatively close in the 4th quarter, take advantage of some opportunities, and strike late, which is all what it's about at the end of the day when you're an underdog trying to win a title game. And I think one thing we can kind of point out here as well too is while Winnipeg has been able to go on a march right now, winning 13 out of their past 15 games or something like that, they still aren't viewed as this historically great CFL team. Meanwhile, on the flip side of this, Toronto isn't viewed as one of those really bad teams that went on a Grey Cup run. It's in a situation where you're seeing an all-time great team go up against a team that if they won would be the worst Grey Cup winning side ever. It's just one of those deals where it kind of fits somewhere in the middle. People might be, ruling out Toronto a little bit here, but at the end of the day, I don't really think it's that big of a concern. Dinwiddie and the guys have proven they can win a lot over the years, and they can beat good teams and be a very good team themselves. So the underdog thing really doesn't matter to me. I think at this stage we could absolutely see Toronto win this game, even though Arbuckle would not be expected to go out there and be a star and win. And then you have the talking point of how could Toronto win this game. I think you have a situation where you could go the very traditional route where the defense steps up and they are able to force turnovers. Those turnovers turn into maybe points, a pick six, fumble return, or the offense is able to go out there and score off the back of one of those turnovers. And then, looking at the return game, maybe they get a big return for a touchdown. Those are all very reasonable things. But I think that one thing we should focus on here is the offense. How could the offense go out there and win this game? I think it really comes down to if they run the ball, maybe making it second and manageable. It's where they could run again. Or you could see a situation where Arbuckle gets 40 plus passing attempts and takes advantage of those moments. And I think a big thing here is letting his receivers be the playmakers. And going up against this team like Winnipeg, Arbuckle probably shouldn't be in the pocket for 5-6 seconds trying to find a receiver, and there might not be separation, and it's just one of those games where he's like 15 for 35 and things are looking bad. If they could find a way to get the ball out of his hand quickly and rely on those receivers to get a lot of yards after the catch, that is going to be a huge difference, I think, in how this game is won or lost. Again, too, ideally, if you did run the ball on first down, sometimes you would like it to be maybe 2nd and 3 or whatnot, so you can, break things down and have a little bit more options in the playbook. But I do think there is a route for Arbuckle to have, again, a high passing attempt night, but then to go out there and win. It's going to really come down to whether or not the receivers can get the ball and then get those yards after catch. But it will be certainly a focal point for this, because if they are getting the ball but not getting a lot of yards, that could be a huge issue for this team. And then you might need, again, more of that traditional night where the defense really does step up. Now, how does Winnipeg win this game? I mean, they are the favorites after all. I think that it really just comes down to them grinding down Toronto. Winnipeg is better, I think, in a lot of ways, but at the same time, too, they have no excuse for the defense especially having a bad game. While I do think that the Argos could move the ball and get some points, the defense should have a lot of motivation in the locker room. Again, trying to prove that they can be a dynasty. We're also saying we shouldn't allow a backup quarterback to have a big game against us when we have lost the past 2 Grey Cups. Should be a huge focal point here. And offensively, I think it really comes down to, yes, you can get Brady all over the ball and can have those big games, but Zach Collaros is going to have to step up and get points on the board. You know, it's kind of very cliche here, but the Blue Bombers shouldn't be settling for field goals early, and they need to be getting those drives in and touchdowns so they can build up a big lead in case anything weird should happen. I think one thing that's pretty obvious, but we're going to talk about it anyway, is Winnipeg cannot turn the ball over. I'm pretty sure that the Bombers were kind of marching in the first quarter of the Grey Cup last year. Brady Oliveira had a pretty good run where things opened up for him, and then he fumbled the ball. Something like that can't happen because we've seen that in the playoffs this year too, where a team might be having a very promising drive. Next thing you know, it ends in turmoil where they turn the ball over and the other team scores. Even if it doesn't, you lose time, and you also lose what would have been a good chance to at least get 3 points, if not more. I know I said don't settle for field goals, but points are better than nothing. So for this, I think we're watching out probably more for Zach Collaros to see how he can do for this team where he's had a little bit of an up and down year. In a lot of ways, it's kind of been down more than up. But this is a big legacy game for him, and we know that he's already been a good quarterback that's been able to win 2 championships. But to get a third while also bouncing back from a rough start to the year, I think would be really huge. So for this game, I'm going to go out there and pick the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm pretty sure that I've picked them every year that this channel has been going on. At the end of the day, I think they are certainly going to go out there and prove it to be a tough game, but they should come out on top. You know, looking at this, you have 2 great storylines. You either have Winnipeg, who started out the year, 0-3 or 0-4, marching their way down to the end of the season and going out there and claiming the West yet again, despite the fact that they are aging, going out there and claiming their 3rd championship to become a dynasty. Or you have the Argonauts being able to go out there with a backup quarterback playing underdogs for another time and winning their 2nd Grey Cup within a 3-year span. This would be amazing. O'Shea or Dinwiddie, again, would be rewarded for their hard work, and you would see 2 great franchises be able to say that they were able to climb the mountain yet again. Toronto has been able to have a lot of success in recent years for the Grey Cup. I know it may not seem like it, they've had some down years, but they've been able to win more than enough in the 21st century. Meanwhile, Winnipeg, especially over the past 5-6 years, they've been able to kind of turn around the narrative for them. So anyway, who is your pick to win the Grey Cup tonight? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.